We're all chasing success, right? But what if I told you that the way you think about work is, well, completely wrong? Today, we're going to dig into a totally different way to look at achievement. It's a simple, super powerful equation that honestly could change everything for you. You ever feel like you're just waiting, waiting for that one lucky break, for the stars to finally align? Well, what if that's the exact thing that's holding you back? It's this super common trap, this passive way of thinking. And today, we're going to figure out how to break free from it for good.
So, the big idea here is all about taking control. Forget waiting for luck. The goal is to create so much activity, so much output, that success isn't a question of if, but when. It becomes almost a statistical guarantee. And look, this isn't about forcing things in some, negative way. It's about literally creating your own luck.
Okay, so if we're going to create that kind of massive output, we have to start by tearing down and rebuilding a word we all think we know inside and out: work. Because honestly, the way most of us define it, it's fundamentally flawed. And for a lot of us, it's the very thing keeping us stuck.
No, seriously, think about it for a second. How do you measure work? Is it the hours you clock in? Is it how completely wiped out you feel at the end of the day? The surprising thing is, those common metrics, they're often totally useless when it comes to actually getting what you want.
Right, so those old school definitions of work, the one from your high school physics class, or the hours you log on your timesheet, or even just how hard it feels like you're trying, they're all wrong. In the game of success, there's only one definition that matters, and it's valuable outputs. Plain and simple. It's not about the effort you put in, it's about what you produce. And here it is. This is the new framework, the whole formula right here. Your total output, your real work, is a product of two things. First, volume. That's how many times you do something, how many shots you take. And you multiply that by leverage, which is how much you get each time you do it. The power behind each shot. That's it. This simple equation, it's the whole game.
And if you want a crazy example, look at this. In 2022, Elon Musk's net worth went up by $140 billion. Now, using our new definition of work, his valuable output was probably the highest on the entire planet. So you could say he worked harder than anyone. But not because he put in more hours. That's just volume. No, it's because his leverage is just on another planet.
All right, so let's zoom in on that second part of the equation. The real multiplier, leverage. Look, volume. Just doing more stuff is important, for sure. But leverage, that's where the magic happens. It's the difference between, swinging a hammer versus operating a giant wrecking ball.
And this is such a critical point. We all get the same 24 hours in a day, right? That means your volume, the amount of stuff you can do, is always capped by time. But leverage, it's uncapped. There's no limit, no ceiling. So this is where we've got to focus our energy. Let's walk through how this actually works, how you stack these layers of leverage. So you start with a salesperson, right? Their base skill, their volume, is making 100 calls a day. Okay, now let's add some leverage. First, they get a tool. Maybe an automated dialer. Boom, more talk time, more output. Then they improve their inputs. They get a better list of leads. Now they're talking to the right people. That's more leverage. Next, they refine their offer, make it more compelling. Conversion rates go up. Even more leverage. But what if they record their best pitch and send it out to millions of people at once? That is massive leverage. And the final boss of leverage? They build a team that makes calls 24/7. See how that works? The initial effort is the same, but the output is now just insane. And that last step, building a team, that brings us to what is, hands down, the most powerful form of leverage there is: other people. The right person on your team is an unbelievable multiplier. It's so true. The key to your next huge leap in growth is probably sitting in someone you haven't even met yet. Check out this real-world example of talent leverage. There was this company that hired an executive for $1 million a year. A huge investment, right? Well, in her first 90 days, just 90 days, she found ways to save the company $3 million. That is an insane return on investment. It just goes to show you, hiring A-plus players is an expense. It's one of the best investments you can possibly make. Okay, so now we know how to build leverage, but we have to talk about the number one thing that destroys it, the great destroyer. And that is the constant, seductive chase for the next new thing. This is the enemy of everything we've been talking about. And this is a cycle that traps so many of us. You've probably felt this. It starts with what's called uninformed optimism. This new opportunity is going to be amazing. Then reality hits. That's informed pessimism. Whoa, this is way harder than I thought. And that leads you right down into the valley of despair, where you're like, why am I even doing this? I should just quit. And right at that moment when you should be pushing through, what happens? You see another shiny new opportunity on the horizon, and you escape. You jump to that new thing, and the whole miserable cycle starts all over again. And every time you do that, you reset your leverage right back to zero. I heard a story about this entrepreneur who had 56 different companies. I mean, his volume was off the charts, but he was spread so thin, chasing so many new things, that he couldn't build real leverage in any of them. The crazy part? He was making less money from all 56 companies than he could have made by just focusing on his single best one. The lesson here is so clear. The money you're looking for is in the focus you're avoiding. You remember in the movie The Matrix, there's the woman in the red dress? She's this beautiful distraction programmed into the system to catch your eye right before you get ambushed. Well, we all have our own woman in the red dress. It's that new project, that new business idea, that shiny object that pulls our focus away from what we should be doing. So the question for you is, what's yours? You got to identify it, because that's the first step to beating it.
So, if chasing new is the trap, and it destroys all our leverage, what's the solution? How do we actually build this stuff for the long haul? The answer is almost laughably simple. We stop chasing new and we start focusing on getting better.
And this is just a perfect business case study that proves the point. You've got two teams. On one side, you have Boston Market. They were the mercenaries. Their whole focus was bigger. They took on tons of debt, expanded way too fast, and their quality just got watered down. The result? They went bankrupt. Then you have the other team, Chick-fil-A. They were the missionaries. Their focus wasn't on bigger, it was on better. A better product, a better customer experience. And what was their result? Total sustainable dominance. And the founder of Chick-fil-A, Truett Cathy, he lived this idea. His whole philosophy was, if we just focus on being better, our customers will demand that we get bigger. He knew that if they were just relentless about quality, growth wouldn't be something they had to force. It would just happen. It would be a natural consequence. And that right there is the core lesson. Focusing on better is the ultimate leverage. Think about it. Every tiny improvement you make increases the power of every single action you take from then on. Excellence creates its own demand. Just chasing bigger leads to a mess, complexity, debt, burnout. So remember this, better leads to bigger, but bigger by itself just leads to blow. So I want to leave you with this one final question to think about. We're all busy, right? We all put in the hours, that's our volume, but using this new way of thinking about work, what is the one single most powerful lever you could be pulling in your life or your business right now? What's the one thing that, if you just focused on that, would create the biggest possible output? The answer to that question? Well, that's where you're going to find your real path to success.